Hello and thank you for joining us from wherever you may be. We're live from our studios here in Kokomlemle on digital address GA0992539. Now, our top stories this hour. Hundreds of residents of Domefase in South Municipality desert their homes after armed soldiers storm the community following the wounding of 2 soldiers in a bloody land dispute there yesterday. Also in today's bulletin, we continue our checks on the infrastructure projects undertaken by government. We take you to the Upper East region today, where residents say a 120-bed housing unit said to be under construction has been abandoned. And later tonight, new segment of PM Express, Manifesto Tracker, comes off on the JoyNews channel with the creative arts sector in focus tonight. And later, as government's Hot Meals for Students program garners mixed reactions, we're going to hear from the National School Feeding Coordinator, who is asking caterers to provide only nutritious food to the school children. We'll also have a conversation with the Deputy Minister for Education, and we will be tracking the manifesto as well. Thank you so much for making the time to be with us. This is The Pulse. My name is Kujo Jackson. It's such a pleasure to be with you once again, and this afternoon we continue our checks on the infrastructure projects undertaken by government. We're going to take you to the Upper East region, where JoyNews checks at a 120-unit housing project is said to be under construction in the Talensi district, but our checks reveal that work has stalled for months. Residents say shortly after the Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's town hall address on government's infrastructure projects, the contractors came back to site to clear portions of the land after months of absence. Still following up on projects on the government's project tracker portal, let's take you back to the OT region, where a bridge at Akaa quarters in the Jasikan district, captured as an ongoing project, does not exist. JoyNews in October 2019 carried out a report on the deplorable nature of the OT regional roads and featured that caved-in bridge. A sod-cutting ceremony was done subsequently to fix the bridge. However, only a heap of chipping sand and rusty iron rods are memories of the sod-cutting ceremony. Correspondent Peter Senu visited the community. He has more. Here's his report.
Akaa quarters is a rural peasant farming community in the Jasikan district in the OT region. The road through this community is the shortest from Jasikan to Tapabutuasi that holds one of the biggest markets in the OT region. The road is in a bad state, but that is not the focus for today. According to government project tracker, this caved-in bridge is under construction and captured as an ongoing project. This, residents say, is not the reality on the ground. Matthias is one of the elders in the community.
October 2019.
If the DC had cut sod in October 2019 and it is said that some work is ongoing, it is not true. Never. You can see for yourself. If the Vice President says they are fixing the bridge, it is not true. JoyNews carried a report on the deplorable nature of OT regional roads in October 2019 and featured this caved-in bridge. Sources say a sword-cutting ceremony was performed here in same month, but nothing has since happened. In fact, if anything has happened, it is this heap of chipping sand and these iron rods that are remnants of the sword-cutting ceremony. The difficulty here is that whenever it rains, taxi cabs, which is the popular means of commuting here, cannot use the road. Their appeal is to have the road and the caved-in bridge fixed before the rains start again. But what is the importance of this road to the people? Matthias again. We are farmers in this community. This road leads to a district hospital at Jasikan, and when there's an emergency, we can quickly get to the hospital for treatment.
Pakeketa. Ne amera gbolwe ya sime.
It is also the main route to Abotuase market for all traders living around here. Fixing the road and the bridge will prevent any form of accident to us. Gagbo Mensah is the headman for the community. This road is a major road for all traders to tap Abotuase market. Fixing it will improve economic life in the area. Watch out for our next reality on the grounds on Tracking the Tracker. Peter Senu for JoyNews.
Yep, we're tracking the tracker, and we're taking you back to the eastern region where JoyNews checks at the Upper East region, forgive me. Our checks on a 120 unit housing project said to be underway in the Talensi district have revealed that work has stalled for months. Our correspondent Albert Sori has been learning more. Here's his report.
In November last year, when President Nana Akufo-Addo came to the Upper East region to cut sword for the construction of the Pualugu multipurpose dam, he also used the opportunity to cut sword for the construction of some housing units, which had been christened the Rock Estates in the Talensi district of the Upper East region. Now, the site for the construction of this project is located at Pusunamongo, not too far away from Pualugu. So today, I am here to check if any work has been done on this site, because the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, when he launched the delivery tracker, said that work was ongoing on this project. In fact, on the delivery tracker itself, it has been stated there that work is ongoing on this site for 120 housing units made up of houses and apartments. Now, the signpost to this project is located on the road, that is the main Bolgatanga Tamale road. There is a bulldozing machine parked by the signboard. Now, at first sight, what you think is that the land immediately after the signpost is the land that is going to be used for this project. But in fact, what is happening is that the area that has been cleared is deeper inside the area. And because of the isolated nature of the area, you rarely find residents around, except for passers-by who are using the main Tamale-Bolgatanga road. It had to take Nelson Tibil, who we met coincidentally, to direct us to the place, because he's a farmer who has his farms around this particular project site. So it had to take Nelson to walk us through a sort of pathway that was recently created to get access to this place. And because it rained 2 days ago and yesterday, it's been very difficult getting access to the place because it is very muddy as we speak.
Well, that was last year November when the president came here. So up to now, it was last Thursday that a driver came with a machine. So if before he came here, we could realize that he cleared a land. That was the very day. So we're also here doing some farming. So we let the farming, as he was clearing the trees, we also cutting firewood. So the driver promised us that he will be back to fence the old things. So it was Monday that we were here when I heard some noise. So I could realize that that was the driver. He passed the machine, but he did not move it into the site. So that, and then yesterday was on Tuesday, and it rains yesterday. So today that I am here, I did not see anybody.
What you will find is that there are a lot of trees around, a few of which have been cut down to pave way for the construction. But apart from that, nothing else has been done. There's been some leveling of the land, as you would see in the background, and then around it there are some maize farms, one of which belongs to Nelson.
Yeah, there wasn't any work here until last Saturday. We were not even knowing that they will come to do something here. They just came harvesting anyhow. They just came to meet us here. Before I realized, they started cutting these things. We're even thinking that we're even thinking that they will enter into our things.
We do not know exactly when houses are going to spring up on this site, and it is difficult to tell what exactly they mean when they say on the delivery tracker that work is ongoing. But what we can report is that except for the bulldozing of some trees and the leveling of the land and maybe the creation of the pathway to this place, nothing else has been done so far. My name is Albert Sorry, reporting for JoyNews.
Right, that's Albert Sorry's report. Now let's see if we can learn a little bit more. He joins us now via Zoom. Albert, once again, another project that is not as described on the website. Talk to us. What exactly do we know about this project?
Yes, so like I stated in the report, Kojo, in November, the president cut short for the Pwalugu multi-purpose dam. That was also the day that I first learned of this project. It was just a sword cutting ceremony that was done. In fact, the sword cutting for this project was very brief compared to what was done for the Pwalugu multi-purpose dam. So it looked like it was just a little program they decided to add to the main thing, which was the cutting of the sword for the Pwalugu multi-purpose dam. And so we didn't hear anything about it until the recent, town hall meeting by Dr. Baumia when the project was listed on the delivery tracker as an ongoing project. So when I got there this morning, this signpost that was there has been there for a long time, actually. But what we learned was that they only brought a bulldozer to do the work that I described in the report only on Thursday. Now, this area that has been bulldozed is just about 4 football fields combined, if you look at the size of the land. And except for the clearing of a few trees, which I suspect are in the way of the work they want to do, there's been nothing else. Not even a brick or a stone has been put there.
Right. Now, Peter, tell us quickly before you go. This is supposed to be a 120-unit facility. What will it mean to the people of Talensi? How badly do they need this housing project?
Housing is a major problem for every Ghanaian. And for us in the Upper East region, people spend so much nowadays trying to rent, homes or, houses that they can keep their families in and all of that. And so if a project like this comes to fruition, and it is a government project, which I believe will be subsidized, it's going to mean, that the amount that people would normally spend on rent from private people, will reduce. And that is going to cut down the pressure for many people.
Albert,
the only issue here is whether this project will come on as soon as possible.
Indeed. Thank you so much for that, Albert Sorry, our correspondent there in the Upper East region. Now, we're still tracking, so let's head to the Central region now, where some fishermen at Elimina are disputing the claims by the president that his administration has given 1,300 outboard motors to fishermen at subsidized prices, according to them. Now, the outboard motors were not given to fishermen, but NPP party members who are not fishermen, according to them. Such party folk who benefited from the outboard motors, according to the fishermen, are selling them to the fishermen at exorbitant prices. John Quayson spoke for the fishermen at the news conference in Elimina.
Why am Coco 11? And Kenny Yala, Wajima party for MP before. No, what on Wajima? A phone,
John Kwasin began mentioning the names of fishermen who the outboard motors were sold to by the alleged MPP party faithful.
245. Needing count. What man? What in 50 million? What you told 150. Needing count. What in 50 million? What you told Asada. Needing count. What in 50 million? What you told
John Kwasin, popularly called Manoma, indicated at a news conference held in a canoe at Elimina, the fishermen that were supposed to be beneficiaries of the outboard motors did not get some of the machines, but rather MPP party supporters. He says such persons are selling the outboard motors to the fishermen at exorbitant prices. They said they brought 50 of the outboard motors to the whole of KE. Elimina in particular got 40 outboard motors. Out of the 40, only 11 fishermen benefited. The rest who got are not fishermen. Where they held the handing over ceremony, they left 10 and they brought a Kia truck to take them away. They also used a tricycle to carry the others away in the evening. This government mentioned the names of only 4 people and later carried the rest of the machines away. Some party supporters who are not fishermen began selling the outboard motors to us. The government sold to us at 10,000. Selling it to us at a cost of 15,000. I'm throwing a challenge to you, the media, to find out the truth. I've mentioned even 6 of the fishermen who these outboard motors were sold to. Richard Kwejinya Akon, Joy News, Elimina.
Now, Richard Kojinyako joins us now on Zoom for a bit more on this. Kojo, first, let's set the scene. Outboard motors, we often hear of them being distributed to fishermen. Explain to us why the fishermen rely so heavily on government support and how important these 1,500 outboard motors were to the fishermen of Elimina. I think you might have to unmute your feed so we can hear you.
Hello, is that okay?
Yes, much better now, Kojo.
Okay, so Kojo, the outboard motors are like the vehicles that we use on the road. So let's take the sea as the road we use. So the outboard motors propel the fishermen to move faster on the sea. And so they put in premix fuel to enable them go for their fishing expedition. And so these fishermen rely on the outboard motors. Now, over the years, government has been buying these outboard motors in whole, and they give them to the fishermen at a subsidized price. And so about a month ago, the fisheries minister came to Elimina and other parts of the coastal belt distributing these outboard motors to the fisherfolk. At Elimina, where we were present, the minister mentioned some of the names, but because for want of time, they mentioned a few names of the fishermen, and then they gave the outboard motors too. So later, we are finding out from at the news conference that these outboard motors did not really go to those who plied their trade on sea or the fishermen, and they went to some MPP supporters who are selling these outboard motors to the fishermen who were looking for these outboard motors to work with. The government sold to them at 10,000 Ghana cedis. That was the subsidized price. So those who are selling to them, some add 4,000 to it, making 14,000. Some add 15,000, making 15,000. At the news conference, they mentioned the names of these fishermen or these vessels that the outboard motors were sold to, and then they told us to go and then confront these people because they have come to them. And some are saying that they are not even going to pay the extra ones they are adding onto. They gave us numbers, and then some of the numbers we called, we pretended that we didn't know, and so we were looking for some of the outboard motors to them. I called 2 of them, and the 2 of them said that, well, they were selling it to them at 15,000, they are adding, and one told me that he was not going to pay the additional 5,000 that had been put on, but we were not made known who exactly sold the outboard motor to that particular fisherman we spoke to.
So we are yet to identify the individuals who are selling the outboard motors.
Exactly, because the outboard motors are not meant to be sold. They are meant to be given to fisher folks, those who have canoes, and that the canoe owners to use them in their fishing expedition or for their fishing business.
So following the ceremony where the fisheries minister named 4 fisher folk, who is the responsible officer of government who was in charge of distributing the rest of the outboard motors?
So, could you at the ceremony that saw the handing over of these machines to the fishermen, the fisheries minister was there, the executive director of the Fisheries Commission, Mr. Advisor, was there, as well as other people. But in the region, they have a premix coordinator. But as to who specifically handed the rest over to the fishermen, we are yet to know, because, you know, in those ceremonies, if Elimina benefited from 50, sometimes they are unable to mention all the 50 there. But the claims by these fishermen is that in the night, they used some trucks to carry the rest of them away, which we do not know the destination in which these outboard motors were sent. We are yet to find out who really is in possession of these outboard motors and where exactly these outboard motors also went. But present at the ceremony was the chief fisherman of Elimina, Ejabedu. We are yet to contact Ejabedu whether he was made responsible for the distribution of the rest of the outboard motors that were left.
Right. So these are very valuable pieces of equipment. Even at a subsidized price, they are being sold for about 10,000 Ghana cedis each. Very valuable.
Yes.
But now they are missing. And the reporting lines of accountability also seem to be missing, because we're not yet able to identify the person who was left in charge of these valuable pieces of equipment.
Well, so now we cannot say whether they are missing, because during the ceremony, we're being made aware that these outboard motors belong to the fishermen, and they said that there is a procedure under which these fishermen would procure some of these outboard motors. They have to pay at a certain place to the bank, and then processes have to be followed in order to be given. So now we are unable to say specifically whether these outboard motors are missing. The allegations these fishermen are making is that the outboard motors have found their ways to some party folks who are then selling them to the rightful fishermen who are supposed to benefit from these outboard motors.
So we can't account for them. We don't know who has them in their custody. We don't know who is responsible for them, how many are left, how many have been distributed. We can't account for them.
Well, certainly we can say that, but at that ceremony, they said that, well, they have accounted for all of them because they went to the fishermen. So if we say we cannot account for them, then it means that they have found their way to some places where the claims by the fisheries minister or something would be false.
Right. Okay. Well, we know you're going to keep your eye on this matter and get us more information as it comes. Richard Kojo-Nyarko, thank you very much for that. Now, later today, a new segment of PM Express on the JoyNews channel dubbed Manifesto Tracker comes off. Now, more on this after the break, including a conversation with the Deputy Education Minister on our Manifesto chat. You're welcome back. Now, from tracking the government's infrastructure projects, let's turn our attention to the education sector. Let's review the sector by looking at how it has fared over the years and the promises that are being made by the NPP in the 2020 Manifesto. Joining me for a discussion is the Deputy Education Minister, Dr. Osei Edu-Twum. Also on Zoom is Joseph Homaji. He's the interim chair of the Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition. GNECC. Gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Right. Do we have the Deputy Minister, Dr. Osei Edu-Twum? Right. We'll be joined by Dr. Osei Edu-Twum. Right. Oh, there we are. Dr. Edu-Twum, thank you for your time. Now, I'll start with Mr. Homaji. Mr. Homaji, what is your first impression of the manifesto? There's so many things promised, but how do you assess government's performance so far in the past 3.5 years?
Regarding education. Is it regarding the education?
That's correct, Mr. Homaji.
Good. Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity, and good evening to your viewers. The educational sector, I would say the government has performed well, even though we don't have a perfect situation, and you can't get a perfect situation anywhere. So we will commend the government for all the measures and the reforms the government has put in place. So as the program goes on, then we come to the details. Then I will make the comment to the details. But for now, we generally will commend the government for all the reforms the government has put in place to ensure quality education for Ghanaian children.
Right. Now, let's look forward. So many new initiatives being promised from the tertiary, sector, seeing the provision of loans without the requirement of guarantors, provided the student has a national identification number from the Ghana card, and also this deferment of repayment of loan after national service, plus an additional 1-year grace period. Let's talk about that first. In terms of its impact, how important is such a provision to students? And what difference, in your assessment, will it make to their performance?
Oh, well, with the guarantee system, sometimes it's a hindrance for the student to access student loan. Sometimes how to get a guarantor to guarantee for you is a problem. So now that it has been removed, it has access to student loan, so that students will be able to acquire the loan and pursue their education. However, the challenge there, where we will call upon the government to look at, is when the students get the loan, because there is no guarantor. When the students get the loan, the repayment will be the issue. So if the government could find another mechanism to ensure that when the students get the loan, they will pay back the loan, so that others will also benefit from the loan, that would be laudable. So as we commend the government for this measure, which will also enhance the access to a loan for students, we are also suggesting to the government, or recommending to the government, that they must also find another mechanism to ensure that the monies are retrieved, so that others can also benefit from this loan.
Right, thank you. Dr. Educhum, once again, I hope you're there. I haven't been able to hear your voice yet. But
I'm here.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Thanks so much for your time with us. Good afternoon. Now, Doc, these past 3.5 years, I suppose the #1 achievement in the education sector would be the free SHS. No doubt it has increased access, and people who would never have been able to go to senior high school are now able to do so thanks to this initiative. We are yet to see how it affects performance in external exams, since those are still ongoing. But have we been able to improve the quality of education in the 3.5 years? And how are we measuring that outcome at the moment?
Thank you for the opportunity, and I want to say a very good evening to your listening and viewing audience. Education is an interesting enterprise. An interesting enterprise in the sense that if you are to do it well, you have to look at the essential elements that can contribute to the ultimate outcome that you need. Increase in productivity through improved skills development, critical thinking, creativity, effective communication, good collaboration skills demonstrated by the students. So essentially, when you talk about education reform, you have to look at access, you have to look at quality, and you have to look at the relevance of the education system. All the initiatives that we have embarked upon, 4 can be categorized into these 3. For example, free senior high school, a great access opportunity, as you have rightly alluded to. but you also have to ensure that you transform your education system by improving quality. So you can also look at other government initiatives that have been embarked upon in terms of education transformation, where we have also, for example, increased the number of years of teacher preparation from 2 + 1 year practicum to now 4 years, so that teachers can master the content. You're talking about content are the subjects that they're going to teach. If it's mathematics, a teacher will adequately understand the mathematical concepts, and beyond that, be able to know his English and social studies and everything. And thereafter, you also focus on the pedagogy. The pedagogy essentially is how to teach, how to deliver the content to the student in such a way that the student will understand. And then in the 21st century, how do you transmit what is called the 4 C's that I initially mentioned, which is effective communication by the student, and then effective collaborative skills so that they can function in a world of work, and then critical thinking and creativity. So for example, an exam that will ask students to label parts of a fish is not the exams that we need to be focusing on in the 21st century. When exams is focusing on why, how, when, that's the lowest level of teaching and learning that you want, an assessment that you want students to master. So we are shifting in terms of the new curriculum that has been introduced by the Ghana Education Service to a place where the teacher is not a sage on stage, not the wisest person in the room, not the teacher telling the student everything that they need to write down, memorize it, give it back to the teacher. That is not 21st century education. So if you look at the curriculum that GS has introduced now, we are shifting to a curriculum where the highest level of learning is creation. So instead of asking students causes of pollution, how does pollution come about, you are now going to ask them, how do you create a city without pollution? That is where they use the 4 C's and bring about critical thinking and creativity. And that is the kind of education we need in this country. So that is how you improve the quality. The results on the external exams is just one facet of it. The critical thinking skill the students acquire in the classroom cannot even be compared to whatever results that we get. But in the end, of course, we want to make sure they've mastered what they've been taught, and therefore they are able to pass the exam. So you look at all that outcome. But the education also have to be relevant to the needs of the country. So if you look at TVET and the transformation that we are doing, this is to help us really get to the point, and also where we can say that we've done access, we've done quality, and we've done relevance. And once you combine the 3, then you are talking about education system that is fit for purpose, an education service system that can really transform the socioeconomic fortunes of your country. So basically, it's about to what end? Why education? Why education reform? And I think if you are making a case for free senior high school, it's not an end in itself. It's a means to an end. And therefore, your question is apt. Not only should you do access, also you have to be mindful of quality.
So my question was about how we are assessing improvement in the quality of teaching and learning. You've talked about the measures, the extension of the training time of teachers and so forth. But these are all things that will yield results in time. At the moment, are we able to look at the outcomes of basic and senior high school education to see whether or not we have improved quality?
That's why education is a very unique enterprise. When you talk about high school, for example, in Ghana, you're going to look at the WASI, right? And that is the most important benchmark. I'll tell you, the critical benchmark that you're going to see down the line is when you see education's impact on productivity, education impact on health outcomes, for example. So yes, short term, you're going to see the WASI and people are going to gravitate towards how is the WASI improved. But if you're looking at the real value of education to socioeconomic, it goes beyond the WASI to a point where your health indicators are getting better. You're looking at young women who now know biology and they're able to take good care of their children, they're able to take good care of themselves during the time when they're expecting. So there are many things that education brings to the fore. So when I talk about the 4 C's, you are not going to see the 4 C's on WASI, but it's a very important set of skills that in the 21st century students and people need to have in order to improve productivity in the workplace and improve the country generally. So yes, you're going to see short, medium-term WASI, but what you're going to see 10, 15 years from now with the change in the way teachers are teaching goes beyond the outcomes that we're even expecting on the WASI. And that the WASI part of it will be something that we'll see. And that is why if you look at the learning outcomes and you focus on just the external exams, you are missing the boat, because by the time the WASI results come in, starting from the basic level, by the time you get your WASI result, those students are gone. That is why beginning next academic year, we're going to do national assessment. Every other year, students are being tested from primary 1 all the way to senior high school. So that if the child doesn't do well in the first assessment in primary 2, you do intervention for the student in primary 3, you assess again in primary 4. So you are doing a longitudinal kind of study to see, can they read, can they write, and if they can't, what do I do? That's the kind of assessment that is going to inure to the benefit of the nation in a tremendous way beyond outcomes that we're going to see on BEC.
Dr. Chuchum, it's interesting that you talk about this sort of yearly assessments before the final external exam. I'm interested though. I mean, we've already spent something like $1.5 billion every year on free SHS. Has the ministry not been putting in any kind of assessment mechanism year on year to see whether our investment is yielding improved results? Have we not been doing continued assessment of the students?
Continued assessment, what they do in the classroom, that is fine.
But do we know what those are yielding? Have we seen the results of that?
Of course, they have the continued assessment. We purchase software for them. You can go on the platform here and be able to know how the students are performing based on teacher scores, right?
So how are they performing?
To them by the teachers. Of course, bottom line is that every school has they submit the results to WAEC. The continued assessment is submitted to. I haven't taken a look at that because you see, in Ghana, continued assessment does not stand on its own, on itself. They lump it together with the WASI scores and then the results come out. In other jurisdictions, and this has been done for years, those countries where education has done very well, you don't wait till final assessment. Yes, the teacher-driven assessment is fine, but the state itself get external exams done in such a way that they know whether teachers are teaching or they are not teaching. And that is what is coming. Now, that this is the first time it's going to happen in Ghana that primary 2 students, every one of them will do an assessment. They used to have some random thing that they do for the NEA sample. A few students that assessment and we're able to project. But this time around, every student will take. So when you are talking about students who can read, you can see that Kojo cannot read, and Kojo's mother gets or father gets a report from the school after they do the assessment that Kojo cannot read, and therefore in primary 3, we are going to do an intervention for Kojo. In primary 4, Kojo is going to be assessed again to see can he read. In primary 6, we're going to do that again. So if you're a parent, you are getting usable data. Now you can then partner with the schools to make sure you don't have a situation where we say somebody graduates from high school and can't write.
Right.
But so if you don't do that, you're going to have.
So this is all to come. This is what you've told us is going to be implemented. All right. I want us to look at what else is to come. I've been looking through the manifesto, and of course, the big headline for tertiary education is and I'm going to quote. It says, "Make sure no student who has obtained admission to a tertiary institution is denied access because they are unable to pay fees." And of course, you're going to do this by allowing them to obtain a student loan without the requirement of a guarantor. Professor Chuchum, so what we are going to do once again is we're going to increase access to tertiary education, because now every student who gets admission is going to be able to go thanks to this loan scheme. So we are increasing access. But again, like we did with free SHS, we haven't yet seen the increase in infrastructure that will be necessary for us to avoid things like double track and gold track and silver track and so forth. Prof, are we not walking into the same glass door that we did with free SHS?
No, not really. And you see, when we talk about access, I always want us to begin with, if you look at Simon Sinek's book, it starts with why, right? When you don't get the why, you may say, I don't like this and I don't like that. Double track is bad. Because we have not been able to explain the why to you, for you to see the sense of urgency. When we establish the sense of urgency, then you can understand, oh, I understand why this is being done and why this intervention is being done. So to get to your question, you see, one of the most predictors of education's contribution to socioeconomic development, one most important factor is what is called the gross tertiary enrollment ratio. That is established that if a nation's gross tertiary enrollment ratio goes up, socioeconomic transformation is carried along and growth happens. So, for example, if you look at the gross tertiary enrollment ratio of Ghana, if you look at the young men between the ages of 18 to 23, we are 17%. Out of every 100, 17 is in some kind of tertiary, whether it's nursing training, teacher training, or university. Okay? Now, countries that have developed, you have to hit 40 going to 50. That is when you see sustainable development. So if you look at the case of Ghana and South Korea, we are 17%. South Korea is 94%, as the Vice President has said in his manifesto presentation. Now, in 1960, we were richer than them, per capita income. They focused on education. They were able to move the vast majority of their people to go up. And not only do they look at the access, they look at the relevance of the education. So when they were moving into heavy manufacturing, more universities were given the resources to do heavy manufacturing. South Korea is now a developed nation, right? So if we don't move the gross tertiary enrollment ratio, but how do you move the gross tertiary enrollment ratio when your secondary enrollment ratio is so low? So you bring free senior high school to lift that middle, to bridge that gap, move your people up, then move the tertiary enrollment ratios up, improve quality of teaching and learning at the tertiary level, make the courses relevant to the needs of the country, and the socioeconomic transformation is coming. So I don't want to talk about education as an end in itself. We have to look at the linkages between education and socioeconomic transformation. That is when we look at our tertiary institutions like our UNIMA. I just spoke with the Professor Afu Bruni, the Vice Chancellor. They have made ample preparations to receive more students into their institutions. Universities around the country have done a fantastic job of increasing potential enrollment in the coming years. Our government has been supporting, and the universities themselves have mobilized resources, and they've done a fantastic job. And then you see, when you solve the loan issue, private universities then improve their capacity automatically. In our private universities, so many of them, and the number of students that are there are limited because students can afford. If you do a very good student loan trust fund, I'll tell you, capacity of private universities will double because now they have students who can afford to pay. As you rightly said, we have students who get an enrollment and they can't go. The sad part of it is even the fact that you have to go to the university in order to apply for the student loans. We've had it backward. In other jurisdictions, you apply for the student loan as you apply for admission. By the time your admission comes, the loan is ready and you pay and you go. So many children are staying at home because you have a situation where they don't have a guarantor. Guarantee system, 1988, I was third year of the university. That is when the SNED loan started. I struggled to get a guarantor. Finally, I got a guarantor. And the sad thing these days is that most people don't want to mortgage their pension. So he goes and says, you want me to use my pension? What about if I don't see you anymore? So the very poor who need the help the most are the ones who can afford a fund guarantee because their parents don't work and they don't have pensions. Right.
Now, Doc, you mentioned that in order to increase our tertiary enrollment ratio, we first had to increase our secondary enrollment ratio. So does that mean that the reason why our tertiary enrollment wasn't high was because there weren't enough people coming through the secondary system?
Let me tell you, yes, And the 17% is not surprising, because you see, it was about 54% who could move on from junior high to secondary. The rest couldn't go, right? So once you have that scenario, then you have 30% who passed the WASI. So when you have about 54, 1/3 of it is about 17% that we were getting. So to begin with, a number of people couldn't go. Then 30% passed the WASI. That gives you the 17% mathematically what we were getting. Now,
right.
Then you go to the university system.
So that
and
means
then those.
So that means everybody who was passing WASI was able to go to university.
Not necessarily, because you see, some people repeated it. So first time pass maybe 17, but when they do reset, the numbers go up.
Right. So I'm trying to figure out
the number after having the reset, the number which was 17% still speaks to the fact that some students will have dropped out, even from junior high before the high school.
Right.
So because when you talk about the gross tertiary, you are looking at the 8 cohort that are within 18 to 23, and how many of them are able to move up.
But in your analysis, I'm trying to find the students who were unable to pay. From the maths you've done, it looks like everybody, you know, who graduates SHS ends up in university, making up the 17%. So where are those who are unable to pay?
No, the thing is, the 17% is the first time, right? Mm-hmm. So generally, you have that ballpark figure. But people do resets. So when they do reset, you're going to get more than 17% within the age bracket who can go.
How much more?
So maybe 3% more, whatever it is. But the bottom line is, those of us who are MPs get these students, parents who come to us and they are crying, my child has passed, he's gotten admission and he can't go. And you try as much as you can. But it's a bad situation. And the sad thing is those who go and then they need guarantors. It becomes a huge burden on the family because they can't find a guarantor. So there's multi-tiered, multi-layered kind of challenges. And when you remove the guarantor, then at least you have freed up a whole bunch of people to be able to access loans and take care of.
So this initiative of removing the guarantor, what is the target increase that the Ghana Ministry of Education is hoping for? Once you institute this no guarantor loan system, you're hoping to increase the tertiary admission ratio from 17% to what?
Now, if you look at the projections that we've made in the education strategic plan, within a period of 5 years, we are looking at, can we hit 30% gross tertiary enrollment ratio? But all these barriers were there. So
but how will you do that if there's only 3% that's unable to make it in because of every year?
These are not hard facts, as I was telling you. They are not hard facts.
But you're aiming for 30% in 5 years. How have you come by that number?
No, 30% is a hard fact. It's WASI. I've also told you that it's sitting for WASI one time. People do reset, so the numbers go up. So you have more than 30% in the pool go to the universities. So these are analysis.
So you want
some of them are based on conjectures. Some are based on real facts that you have. Yes.
Okay, so your target at the ministry is to increase tertiary admissions from 17% to 30% over 5 years.
Yeah, as spelled out in the strategic plan, yes.
Right, and this 30% is basically going to be the total number of students who graduate from, who pass WASI.
Including reset, you're going to get more people in the pool.
Okay, so 30% in 5 years. That will mean that you would have to be able to add about 6% every year.
I mean, you see, with a free senior high school, if you really look at the fact that we have, within this 3 years, we have 100,000 more going through senior high school, it's not difficult to get to that number. You just have to remove the barriers.
Well, we're yet to see the quality. We're yet to see the pass rate following free SHS. The first cohort of free SHS is about to go through.
If you maintain even the same pass rate, the numbers are higher. So
do we know whether we're going to increase
the rate, and the numbers are higher?
Do we know whether we're going to increase the or maintain or decrease the pass rate?
I don't have a crystal ball, so I won't come and sit in front of you and tell you that maybe increase. I don't have a crystal ball. So the right, we don't have to wait for too long. We see the numbers, but the bottom line is that you have more people. So when you put more people in the pool, the numbers, absolute numbers, will go up, and therefore your gross tertiary enrollment ratio will have to go up because you've really increased the number of students in the pool, and that gives you a better opportunity in terms of increasing your gross tertiary enrollment ratio.
Right. I haven't really had the chance to talk to you about funding, how you're going to fund this particular initiative. I mean, it's definitely going to be expensive. If you're looking at almost doubling the admission rates over 5 years, that's going to cost a lot of money in terms of loans and so forth. I know you're looking to use the Ghana card identification system as some sort of tracking mechanism. But we still haven't quite succeeded at locating people's addresses with the Ghana Post GPS system. It's still growing. It's still not at full capacity. So what's the plan? What's the contingency to ensure that we can identify people?
One of the reasons why other countries are able to do some of the things we can do is basically identification issue. Now we have GPS, the digital address link up with the national ID. You're able to at least find out where the person is. So it's a huge boost. The digitalization agenda pursued by the government, spearheaded by the vice president, is going to give us a huge boost in some of these things, right? And then the interesting thing is that your national ID is your TIN, right, number. So the moment you start work, it registers in SNES that you work here. It's registered in the Student Loan Trust Fund that you work at this place. So you cut down the anonymity that has been plaguing the system for too long, where a student works or a graduate works at a location and you don't even know. Now you have cut that down. So you hit social security system because your deduction is being made. The tax ID system kicks in with GRA, link with your national ID, and Student Loan Trust Fund knows where you are, instructs your employers to deduct it on their behalf. So this is something that has never happened before. And that is why this digitization agenda is so critical to the fortunes of this country. There are certain things you can do now that you couldn't do 2 years ago, or even last year. Yeah. So if you look at removal of the guarantor, without the national ID, you could not have even thought about that. Right. So now you go to the university, you register, they're going to collect all that data. The moment you finish, you go to national service, your data is in there. After national service, you get a job, it's registered with Student Loan Trust Fund. So that seamless tracking of students and their identities then helps you. You're going to get a passport, it registers in there. So everywhere you turn, something tells the Student Loan Trust Fund that this is where you are, and it will therefore boost their ability to really collect the loans that they disperse.
Right. Let me wrap up with this, Dr. Educhum. You talked about how your expectation is for the tertiary institutions, the private ones, to respond to this loan scheme by improving and enhancing their facilities. How much consultation have you done with private universities in arriving at this particular plan?
No, I was not part of the Manifesto committee. I'm a deputy minister. So what I know is that when you create incentives and the incentives are right, it's just a question of people taking advantage of it. If I'm a private university president, right, and students have access to it makes sense that if they don't have access in the public sector, they'll be coming to me. And the innovative aspect of Ghanaian tertiary education space in terms of private sector is the fact that they are affiliated to public universities. So you go to a private university, you get a diploma from Legon, you go abroad, it's Legon's diploma in your hands up to a point where the university would then obtain a charter. So that's a very innovative system that will encourage more people to look at the private universities in case the capacity in some of the public universities are limited and they won't get opportunities.
Right. So these are assumptions. It's not that you've actually spoken to the private universities to find out whether they might even have any
informal discussions.
Right. Okay.
I think people are just excited about the fact that if the students come to me, they will get a loan. And
Right.
if they can get a loan, then of course, potentially, I can increase my enrollment.
Right. You don't know whether there might be any bottlenecks that will prevent them
I mean,
from...
some of these things, you remove the bottlenecks, you do your analysis, then the practical issues will come up.
Right.
So
Okay.
I can't sit here and say that based on this, all private universities will increase enrollment, because in some places the fees are much higher than the loans that the student will get. So I can't sit here and say that because of this, all universities are going to boost enrollment at the private. It depends.
Right. Dr. Duchum, I want to thank you so much for that. You've certainly helped us get into these policies and understand them better. We appreciate that. I want to wrap up now with Mr. Joseph Homaji, who is the interim chair of the Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition. Now, Mr. Homaji, one thing we've realized is that very often when political parties write manifestos, they make promises to do all kinds of things in education, but it's hard to identify sometimes what problems they are trying to solve. So we've just heard about one of the big flagship initiatives that the NPP is promising if they are to win in December 2020, and it's to remove guarantors from the loan scheme. Now, is GNECC satisfied that this will go to solve a specific and existing problem in our tertiary education sector?
Yeah, Kojo, thank you very much for this question. But before, if your permission, before I come to that, can I address the quality issue you raised?
Certainly, certainly.
The doctor?
Yes, please.
Good, thank you very much. You know, it is true that the free HS has increased access and has addressed the issue of equity. However, the quality, I think there's a challenge there, which the government has to look at it seriously. Is, for example, the numbers in the classrooms are huge to the extent that teachers giving assignment, are they able to mark the assignments critically? Again, if the children are so many in the classroom, what about the teaching? Does it affect teaching and learning in the classroom? So these are all quality issues. Then number two, the attention is so much on the free HS to the extent that the basic level, I don't think it's getting the equal attention, even though I'm aware there are some other measures as far as the basic level is concerned. But there are issues over there. For example, you go there, even children in the lower primary cannot even read anything, or they cannot read as expected. These are all quality issues. Then the next thing is supervision. There must be very effective supervision in the schools. When you read school improvement literature, it will tell you that school improvement happens at the school level. What about the heads? Right. Are they supervising? What about the supervisors in the district? Are they doing the supervising work? Are they demanding accountability from the teachers, the head teachers, the directors to ensure effective teaching and learning? These are all quality issues. And what about the resources in the classroom, in the JSS, and the basic level, the 3HS level? So these are issues that affect quality.
Right.
So our position is that the government should do more in terms of resources, in terms of training. I know the government is doing something in that area, but I think more attention should be given to basic level, which is the fundamental, our foundation level.
Okay. Mr. Joseph Homaji, I apologize for cutting in. I'm told that our time is up, but you certainly have made your point there, that there are several quality issues that do need to be addressed by the government, and you've enumerated a number of them. I want to thank you very much for your time with us. We appreciate you very much. Mr. Joseph Homaji is the chairman of GNECC. Let's stay with education for a moment. Now, the coordinator of the National School Feeding Program, Dr. Gertrude Kwashiga, has urged caterers under the school feeding program to only give nutritious food to school children, adding that will enable the children, especially the needy, to concentrate in class. Now, the food being provided to the students has garnered mixed reactions. Let's first hear from the beneficiaries of these hot meals.
It's not really how we expected it to be.
How were you expecting?
We expected it to be a little bit attractive, but when we saw it, we weren't really happy about it.
Have you tasted it?
Yes, we.
Nice.
For me, it's not. The salt content is very low, and you know, I didn't really have the appetite to eat it. Yes.
Why?
Because it wasn't attractive.
We weren't expecting this type of food.
What were you expecting?
Like something nice, attractive. But like you see when you go to buy fried rice, the way it's attractive. But this one is like a mutu rice balls. It's not attractive. Yes. We don't blame the president, we blame the cookers. So Nanado should talk to them and they'll cook palatable food for us.
The food it's not all that good, but because if you see that the food is not even many, and the way they package, if you see, you think the food is good, but it's not good. The water itself, the water is not even cold, it's hot water, but they say hot milk. We expected something better than this one. The food itself is not all that good.
And you see, as the branding of it, you shouldn't add politics into like serving food to children. These are children, for crying out loud. We are children. We are not supposed to be put into politics.
Meanwhile, the coordinator of the National School Feeding Program has been touring some schools in the Volta region.
And so whatever he has asked us to do, it is on that assignment that we are all here in the Volta region. But what we came to see was that the kinky that was prepared, one was with egg and one was with fish. That's sardine, tin fish, which I think that one going to the teachers shows so much respect. And then the eggs for the children gives them the needed and the added protein that they needed in their bodies. And so I would say that the caterer should continue with her good work, prepare nutritious sauce for the children. Nutritious sauce meaning that blending the most vital vegetables in the district, carrots, cabbage, green pepper, and the garlic and the ginger and the tomato, which is all of this are in high, is really in high supply. You know, you can see that it's so much in abundance. There's a bamba season for all these vegetables, so they should use them to prepare nutritious sauce for the children. Even the banku, I encourage them also to use soya to blend with what? With the cassava dough, the corn dough, and make it a highly nutritious and fortified banku.
Right, let's do some other stories. Now, after years of competing with cattle for drinking water, villages in the Upper West Regional Community of Dewo can now heave a sigh of relief. The community of over 500 residents is one of 20 that Promisador Ghana Limited, producers of cowbell, is supporting with a borehole as part of the JoyNews Safe Water Project. Here's my colleague Justice Bedu with great news.
Scenes of cows sharing water with human beings is a common sight in many parts of Ghana, especially in the north. Once upon a time, the villagers of Dewo used to share theirs with these animals.
Assume you get up in the morning, you have to walk about 300 meters, 50 meters, 70 meters before you access water. Surely your productivity will go down. As school children, they get up, they have to walk as far as 50, 100 meters before they will get water. They will be late for school. So these are, when you access those, and your productivity will surely go down. So that is why it affects them, their education, it affects their health, because they are drinking unsafe water from the street, coupled with worms, diarrhea, water-related diseases, and all those comes. So it will surely affect the people as a whole.
Ma Duru has 8 children she is responsible for. She also has other children in the house that she takes care of. With no water, that is a tough job.
So, madam when
we were not having the borehole, we used to share the stream with the cattle. That made us sick and worried us a lot. We used to get malaria, diarrhea. We used to vomit and were frequenting the hospital. It was a difficult time for us.
In February this year, Promisador Ghana Limited, producers of cowbell, found the story of Dewo, and as part of its 20-year celebration, decided to build this borehole here.
We have free basic education and all that. But then if you have a child who is continuously beating for lateness, for example, at school, he will never want to go to school. So having water close to where they live is very important.
Today, there is change in Dewo. The people here have clean drinking water, kind courtesy of the corporate social responsibility of a company that is putting part of its earnings back into a community which is in desperate need.
Cowbell has come to do a lot for the communities, and they are really happy. If you go there the way right now, when they are fetching the water, they fetch the water with smiles, and they are happy for the support that Cowbell has given them.
We'll take good care of it. Now, when the women are washing, they would easily have water to do the washing.
Justice Bedu, JoyNews, Dewo in the Upper West region.
Water indeed is life. Speaking of life, let's bring you to another community, this time in the South municipality by name of Domefase, where residents, hundreds of them, have deserted their homes after armed soldiers stormed the community as a group of unidentified men and community leaders brutalized two uniformed military men over a long-standing land dispute. Now, the few women and children left behind tell JoyNews all the men in Domefase have fled to surrounding villages following this incident. Roland Walker, who's in the community, reports that the military personnel who would not speak to JoyNews could still be seen searching homes, perhaps still looking for suspected culprits of the brutality meted out to their fellow men in uniform. Already, some suspects are reported to have been rounded up in the early hours of this morning. My colleague Roland Walker has been there. Here's what he's learned.
Scores of residents of this community, we're talking about Domefase, have deserted the town because we had hundreds of military personnel who had been deployed here 24 hours after brutality was meted out to two military personnel, very well uniformed. The incident had also meant that either side of a faction over a disputed land for which they accuse an Achim chief and possibly some high-ranking military officials on ownership and one's claim is under dispute. Scenes of empty houses becoming synonymous with, until 24 hours ago, a once vibrant community. Scores of military men storming Domefase created fear and panic among inhabitants, leading to an entire community fleeing to nearby villages, perhaps to escape the wrath of the military personnel whose two colleagues had been brutally assaulted a day earlier. And typical of such situations, residents, at least those remaining, mainly women and children, had stories to tell.
Me beti say, yes, a soldier for Baha, a man to Quebiesi. Intinia meti yana no. No, say, and Wintinama, a higher minya, son, no, say, aye. Tinia said they see potty dear. Ma,
okay. Sister Evelyn, thank you.
You.
So we're speaking to Madam Evelyn, and she said that even though she lives here, she was not around when the incident happened, and then she just came this morning and got wind of what may have transpired. Okay. So what she's saying is that she went to church, she was not around. It looks like the few that were seen in the community were not around when the incident happened. So, but those who were around when the incident happened don't seem to be in the community. Again, the story remains, who will find the culprits? But a bigger question is, where are the missing residents?
Wow. Ghost town. Anyway, there's more to come on The Pulse. I don't want you to go anywhere. I'll be right here after these messages. We'll continue.
Thank you for staying with us on The Pulse. I'm Gary Alsmith, and this is The Sport. And the simple question is, so what next for Leo Messi? He has put in a transfer request. Things have moved on pretty quickly. Apparently, he wants to join Guardiola, and reports say his father even is in Manchester as we speak. Dan Kwekwewa is my colleague in the industry, and he's a Barcelona fan, a huge one. Dan, first of all, how did you feel when you got the news that Leo wanted to leave?
Gary, it is the saddest news, the saddest football news ever heard. Honestly, I still can't believe it that Lionel Messi wants to quit Barcelona. I'm still praying that he stays, honestly.
No, right now the letter has even come out. We have seen it and all that. The reports are that he's going to Manchester City. Still, what do you think?
Well, the supporters of Barcelona, some supporters of Barcelona, yesterday attempted to stage a demonstration and demanded that the president resigns instead. So my prayer is that Bartomeu will resign to calm the nerves of Messi to stay, because it will be catastrophic if we lose Messi at this time.
But that's the issue, isn't it? That the club has become so dependent on one man, not just from the football point of view, but even from the financial point of view. You know, he earns so much money and weighs the team down.
Well, I do not think that Messi's presence is a negative. He has a lot of gravitational effect, both on and off the field. But I think it is from the positive perspective, because if you have Lionel Messi in your team, yes, his wage bill is huge. But then you also look at the merchandising aspect, the number of jerseys you can sell having Lionel Messi, the number of followers you can have getting Lionel Messi. Believe you me, if Messi leaves today, most supporters will switch loyalty to whichever club he may find himself. So it's a two-coin affair. It's a coin of two sides affair. Yes, he has a huge wage bill, but his presence, we need him. No administrator worth his salt would say that Barcelona doesn't need Lionel Messi. Whatever the circumstance, whatever it is, Barcelona is Lionel Messi and Lionel Messi is Barcelona. We can't afford losing him. It's my prayer that he changes his mind. In any case, Pep Guardiola is a Spanish, so he might have a bit of a Barcelona interest at heart. Who knows? But honestly, it's a very bad news for Barcelona.
Right. So now the other part of the matter is, should it happen that your worst fears are confirmed, Leo leaves, what happens next to the club, do you think?
Yeah, like I did indicate, the gravitational effect of Messi on the field, he will give you results, he will deliver. Not to talk about the merchandising benefits.
No, I'm saying, assuming he leaves, what will the club do? What should the club do, assuming he's gone?
Assuming he leaves, honestly, it will take us some time to recover, because there is no way we are going to get another Lionel Messi today or tomorrow. That is a fact we should not run away from. If he leaves, it is going to take us maybe the next 3, 4, 5 years to recover. If you look at Real Madrid, the absence of Cristiano Ronaldo is being felt, no two ways about that. And Barcelona is going to go through the same phase if Messi leaves. And like you're saying, it is more likely he's going to leave. If he leaves, we'll find ourselves in trouble, because you can't get a replacement for Lionel Messi. It's as simple as that.
Now, the beginning of all this is that apparently he met Ronald Koeman and he was not happy, and Leo was not happy with Koeman's plans, particularly with the impending departure of some of Messi's good friends, Luis Suarez and others. Do you think... Yes. What do you think of that?
I think that Messi wants to leave for two reasons. One is remote, one is immediate. The immediate is the one you are talking about. I think that Ronald Koeman, with all his football experience and managerial experience, could have handled the situation better. You don't pick a phone and call somebody like Suarez and tell him on phone that I don't need your service. I think it was too harsh. And that might be one of the reasons why Messi wants to leave. The remote causes, we all know that after the retirement of Iniesta, Puyol, and Xavi, he's not had the best of playmates. And instead of Barcelona relying on the La Masia to get our players graduate into the senior team, we wanted to match Real Madrid by buying Galacticos, and it didn't work out for us. That is the remote cause. But the immediate cause, I think Ronald Koeman could have done better. I think he got carried away by emotions. After we lost 8-2 to Bayern Munich, Gerard Piqué came out to say that there is a need for an overhaul. And I think that maybe Ronald Koeman, monitoring from afar, followed proceedings and got carried away, because you don't throw away the baby with the water. I think it's very unfortunate. We should get Messi. I can't imagine Messi leaving Barcelona. There should be ways. And what really scared me was how players that I expect them to talk to him to stay were supporting his cause.
Yeah, which means the problems are rooted. Yeah.
In fact, it really, really surprised me, because Puyol is a huge figure in Barcelona, and I expected that he would plead with Messi to stay. But for him to support it, Suarez also added his voice. It makes the whole situation murky. But I'm still hoping upon hope that Messi stays, because it will be a big blow for Barcelona.
All right. Thank you, Dan. We appreciate your time and all the best.
Thanks, bros.
Wow. Big news. We'll see what the latest coming out of the Camp Nou is. Latest is that Messi may be going to England. We'll see how that one goes. I'm Gary Alsmith with the sport.
Well, this is where we wrap things up. It's been such a pleasure bringing you yet another edition of The Pulse. We're back with more tomorrow. In the meantime, you know where to go for your regular news fix. myjoyonline.com. All the headlines played out there for your enjoyment.